High school sports in Indiana are about to experience their biggest transformation in decades. Imagine if every talented athlete could suddenly switch schools as easily as changing their jersey number.
That's quite a dramatic shift from the current system. What exactly does this House Bill 1492 mean for student athletes?
Well, here's the game changer starting July 2025. Athletes can transfer schools without any residence requirements or waiting periods. It's like creating a mini version of the college transfer portal at the high school level.
The timing of this is really interesting, especially considering how it might affect the tournament success factor system.
Oh, you know what's fascinating about the TSF? Private schools, which make up only about 15% of Indiana high schools, account for nearly 40% of all schools forced to move up in classification due to their success.
Hmm. So adding unrestricted transfers to that equation could really amplify those numbers.
Exactly. And here's what athletic directors are most worried about. We could see the emergence of these super programs where all the talent congregates. One AD told me they're calling them basketball factories.
Well, that must be why IHSAA Commissioner Paul Nadig is pushing back so hard against this legislative approach.
You know what's interesting about Neidig's position? He's actually not against reform. He just wants it to come from within the IHSAA. They're looking at some pretty innovative solutions, like adjusting the TSF point threshold from 6 to 7 and incorporating socioeconomic factors into classification decisions.
Those sound like pretty substantial changes to the current system.
And here's where it gets really complex. We're seeing this huge disparity in resources between schools. Some programs have professional quality facilities, while others can barely maintain their equipment. Like, how do you balance that under any system?
The resource gap must make this whole situation even more challenging for smaller schools.
Absolutely right. And check this out, according to some coaches I've talked to, they're already seeing informal recruitment happening. One coach told me, "We're not supposed to recruit, but everyone knows which programs are having conversations with which players."
That kind of behind-the-scenes activity could really transform the competitive landscape.
And here's what really keeps me up at night thinking about this. What happens to those Friday night lights moments? You know, when the whole town shows up to watch kids they've known since elementary school represent their community?
The community aspect of high school sports is pretty special. Would hate to see that disappear.
Well, some states have tried different approaches. Like in Ohio, they've created separate tournaments for public and private schools. But even that hasn't fully solved the competitive balance issues.
So, what's the solution here? How do we maintain both educational choice and competitive balance?
You know what's fascinating? Some experts are suggesting a hybrid system may be allowing one free transfer before junior year, combined with a modified TSF that takes into account things like school size and economic factors. But here's the kicker, no system is going to be perfect.
The whole situation really makes you question what high school sports should be about.
That's exactly it. And maybe that's the conversation we should be having. Instead of just focusing on transfers and classifications, maybe we need to step back and ask, what's the real purpose of high school athletics? Is it about winning at all costs or developing student athletes who represent their communities?
Sounds like Indiana's about to find out one way or another.
And you know what? Whatever happens with this bill, it's clear that high school sports in Indiana will never be quite the same. The real question is whether these changes will help more students succeed or just create a system where the strong get stronger.